They told me my whole life was a lie. But the cruelest part wasn't hearing the truth. It was living 30 years in the shadow of it. My name is Michael. At least that's what I thought. For as long as I can remember, I was the adopted one. That is what my parents, or the people I thought were my parents, drilled into me. "You're lucky we even took you in," my mother would snap whenever I asked for anything. Meanwhile, my younger brother and sister, the real children, had everything. New clothes, birthday parties, vacations. I had chores. I cooked. I cleaned. I mowed the lawn. I fixed broken furniture, and when I grew older, I even worked a part-time job. Not for myself, but because my parents demanded I contribute to the household. I wasn't family. I was the servant that lived in their house. And the strangest part? I believed them. I believed I was just an adopted child they never really wanted. For 30 years, I swallowed the story whole. Then my father died. I remember the funeral. The church smelled faintly of flowers and wax. My siblings sat in the front, crying into silk handkerchiefs. I stood in the back, hands in my pockets, feeling more like an intruder than a son. People whispered condolences to them, not to me. When the service ended, I slipped outside, eager to vanish into the background. That's when a man in a gray suit approached me. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with sharp eyes that seemed to cut right through me. "You're Michael Hayes, aren't you?" he asked. "Yes," I said cautiously. He nodded, lips pressing into a thin line. Then he said words that made my stomach turn cold. "You're not adopted. You were kidnapped." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but he wasn't joking. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded newspaper clipping, yellow with age. He handed it to me. My hands shook as I opened it. The headline read, "Toddler Abducted. Family Offers Reward for Safe Return." Below the headline was a picture of a child with round cheeks, dark hair, and eyes wide with innocence. My eyes. It was me. I could barely breathe. What is this?" I whispered. The man looked me square in the face. "Your real parents never stopped searching for you. That reward money? It's grown with interest. It now stands at $95 million, and it's still waiting. For you." For a moment, the world tilted. I gripped the side of a car to steady myself, the newspaper trembling in my hands. Everything I thought I knew, gone in an instant. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to collapse. Instead, I muttered, "There has to be some mistake. I was adopted. They told me." He cut me off sharply. "No. That's the lie they fed you. You weren't adopted. You were stolen." The words hit harder than any slap. I wanted to ask more, but before I could, a woman called out from the church steps, and the man turned. "We'll be in touch," he said quickly, pressing a card into my hand. Then he walked away, leaving me clutching a scrap of paper that felt heavier than the coffin inside. On the ride home, I stared at that clipping again and again, tracing the outline of the child's face. My face, my real parents' names were printed in the article, and the date, 30 years ago. All those nights scrubbing floors, all the times I was told I wasn't really part of the family. Suddenly they weren't just cruelty. They were guilt. They knew the truth. They'd stolen me, and keeping me small was their way of keeping me trapped. When I got home, my so-called mother was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping tea like nothing had happened. My siblings were in the living room, laughing, the TV blaring. I dropped the clipping on the table. "What the hell is this?" Her face drained of color. The cup rattled in her hand. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "You told me I was adopted, but I wasn't, was I? You kidnapped me. You stole me from my real family." Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "It was your father's idea." The room spun. My father, the man we deburied that morning, had been the one who stole me. I gripped the edge of the table, my chest tight. You ruined my life." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. I turned and stormed out of the house, the clipping clutched in my hand like a lifeline. For 30 years, I thought I was nothing. But now, I wasn't just a servant or an unwanted adoptee. I was a kidnapped child with a family out there, and a fortune waiting to be claimed, and I was going to uncover the truth no matter what it cost. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, the yellowed newspaper clipping spread out in front of me, and the stranger's card clutched tight in my hand. Every time I blinked, I saw that photograph of the missing toddler. My own face, staring back at me from 3 decades ago. Kidnapped. The word echoed in my head like a curse. When the first hint of dawn lit the sky, I dialed the number on the card. "Hello?" A deep voice answered. "It's me," I said shakily. "Michael, or whoever I am." The man from the funeral exhaled like he'd been waiting. "I knew you'd call. Meet me tonight, 7 o'clock. There are things you need to see, things that will change everything." Before I could ask questions, the line went dead. All day I walked around in a fog, memories of my childhood flashing in jagged fragments. My so-called parents scolding me, comparing me to my siblings, treating me like I never belonged. I remembered once, when I was 10, I asked why I didn't have any baby pictures. My mother slapped me so hard my cheek burned for hours. "Stop asking stupid questions," she'd said. Now I knew why. By evening I was half crazed with anticipation. I drove across town to the address on the card, a modest office in a crumbling brick building. Inside, the man was waiting with a woman about my age, dressed professionally, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Michael," he said, gesturing, "this is Detective Harris. She's been working this case for years." She nodded. "We've been tracking leads on your disappearance since the day you went missing. Your parents never gave up." "My real parents?" I asked, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. "Yes," she said firmly. "David and Sarah Bennett. They're still alive. They never stopped searching for you." I felt my knees weaken. For 30 years I'd been told I was unwanted. And now, someone had wanted me so badly they never stopped looking. The man slid a folder across the table. "These are police reports, witness statements, bank records. Your so-called parents weren't saviors. They were criminals. They faked adoption papers, paid bribes, changed your name. It was a carefully constructed lie." I opened the folder, my stomach twisting as I scanned the documents. There were my fake parents' names, listed in an investigation 30 years old. Suspected of involvement in multiple crimes, but never charged. My whole life had been built on their deception. "And the reward money?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Detective Harris's expression softened. "Your parents put up a reward for any information leading to your return. Over the years, with interest and contributions from supporters, it's grown to $95 million. $95 million. The number seemed unreal, almost meaningless compared to what I'd just learned. "But it's not just about the money," Harris continued. "It's about justice. It's about reuniting you with your real family." I clenched my fists. "And what about them?" I meant the people who had raised me, the ones who called me a servant, the ones who stole my life. The man's jaw tightened. "The law will take care of them. But you need to decide what you want. Do you want to meet your real parents?" The question cut through me like a blade. Did I? The thought terrified me. For 30 years I'd been nothing, a shadow in someone else's house. Could I really step into a new family, a new life, and pretend I hadn't been broken for decades? But another part of me whispered, "They never gave up on you. Don't give up on them." "I want to meet them," I said finally, my voice shaking but firm. Detective Harris smiled faintly. "Good, but you need to be prepared. This won't be easy. The media will be relentless. Your fake family won't let go quietly. And your real parents, they've lived 30 years without you. There will be pain, Michael, but there will also be truth." When I left that office, the night air felt different. Colder, sharper, alive with possibility. I drove back to the house I'd grown up in, not because I wanted to stay, but because I wanted answers. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table again, staring into a cup of cold tea. I dropped the folder onto the table. "They know everything," I said flatly. Her hands trembled as she reached for the documents. "Michael, please." "Don't call me that," I snapped. "That's not even my name, is it? You stole me. You lied to me every single day of my life." Tears welled in her eyes. We couldn't have children at first. Your father, he wanted a son so badly when the opportunity came." "You mean when you found a helpless child to steal?" I spat. She broke into sobs, but I felt nothing. No pity, no warmth, just rage. I leaned closer, my voice low and venomous. "You treated me like a servant while you spoiled your real children. You told me I was lucky to even be here. You ruined my life, and now the truth is out. You can cry all you want, but the world is going to know what you did." I turned and walked out, her sobs echoing behind me. For the first time in 30 years, I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt like a storm, ready to tear apart every lie that had stolen my life. And somewhere out there, my real family was waiting. 2 days later, Detective Harris called me again. "They're ready to meet you," she said softly. My heart slammed against my ribs. They, my real parents, David and Sarah Bennett, the people who never stopped searching for me, even when the world told them to move on. We arranged the meeting at a private estate outside the city. They wanted privacy. The press had already caught wind of the kidnapping revelation, and reporters were circling like vultures. I drove there in silence, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My mind replayed every cruel word I'd endured as a child, every time I'd been told I didn't belong. And now, maybe I finally would. When I pulled up, the gates opened and I drove down a long driveway lined with tall oaks. The house was enormous. White stone walls, sprawling gardens, a place that screamed wealth. But for once, I didn't feel envy. I felt fear. I parked and got out. Harris was waiting by the steps, her expression warm but cautious. "They're inside," she said. "Take your time." My legs felt like lead as I climbed the steps. The door opened, and there they were. Sarah Bennett was smaller than I expected, her hair silver now, but her eyes the same shade of blue as mine. David stood beside her, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that filled the room. For a moment, none of us spoke. We just stared. Then Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. "My baby," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I froze. No one had ever called me that before. Not with love, not with longing. She rushed forward and wrapped her arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. David followed, his arms strong and trembling as he pulled us both close. 30 years of emptiness collapsed in that moment. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was home. I thought I'd never see you again," Sarah cried. "Every day I prayed for this, every single day." David's voice was thick. "We searched everywhere, Michael." I pulled back slightly. "That's not even my name, is it?" He smiled sadly. "No, we named you Ethan, Ethan Bennett. Ethan, my real name." I whispered it under my breath, tasting the syllables. It felt strange, foreign, but right. For hours, we sat in their living room. They showed me photo albums of the life I should have had. My nursery, my first birthday, pictures of them holding me before I was taken. They told me about the night it happened. "You were just 2 years old," David said, his fists clenching. "We left you with a sitter for the first time. When we came home, you were gone. The sitter had disappeared, the police searched for years, we offered everything we had as a reward, and when nothing came, we doubled it, tripled it, but we never gave up." Sarah touched my hand. "We kept your room ready for you, all this time." I swallowed hard, all this time. I thought I was adopted. They made me believe I was lucky just to be in their house, but I was a prisoner, a servant. David's eyes darkened. "They will pay for what they did to you." But not everyone was happy about my return. That night, after the Bennetts insisted I stay in their guest room, I overheard raised voices downstairs. I crept to the staircase and listened. A younger man, their lawyer maybe, Ektin, was arguing. "David, Sarah, this changes everything. If Ethan is legally recognized, he becomes the sole heir. The estates, the companies, the trust funds, all of it reverts to him. Sarah's voice was firm. "He is our son. He deserves everything. But the others will contest it, cousins, shareholders, trustees. You're opening a war, and the press." I stopped listening. My chest tightened. $95 million wasn't just a reward. It was a fortune that tied me to this family. But money, I realized, wasn't just a blessing. It was a curse. When I returned to my room, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from my fake sister, Claire. "We need to talk. Don't ruin us. We can make a deal." I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. Even now, they weren't apologizing. They weren't begging forgiveness. They wanted a deal. The next morning, I confronted the Bennetts. "They know," I said, showing them the text. "They're going to fight this. They'll do whatever it takes." David's jaw hardened. "Let them try. You are our son, Ethan. No one can take that from you." Sarah cupped my face, her eyes fierce despite the tears. "We lost you once. We will not lose you again." But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The truth was out, but with it came chaos. Lawsuits, media frenzy, betrayals, threats. I wasn't just the servant boy anymore. I was Ethan Bennett, heir to a fortune, son to parents who never stopped loving me, and target of the family that had stolen me. The storm was only just beginning. The storm broke faster than I expected. Within days, headlines plastered every newspaper, every TV screen, every corner of the internet. Kidnapped heir found after 30 years. Servant boy was actually millionaire's son. $95 million reward claim sparks legal battle. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Strangers claimed to be my friends. Distant relatives came out of nowhere. Paparazzi camped outside the Bennett estate. Everywhere I went, cameras flashed. But worst of all were the threats. "You don't belong to them," one email read. "If you try to take what isn't yours, you'll regret it." Another simply said, "We know where you sleep." Detective Harris warned me to be careful. The people who raised me weren't going to let go quietly. And she was right. One night, I agreed to meet my fake sister Claire at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. I told myself I just wanted closure. But in truth, I wanted to look her in the eye and hear the lies from her own lips. She arrived in a sleek black dress, sunglasses hiding her eyes even though it was evening. When she took them off, I saw a mixture of fear and anger. "You don't understand what you're doing," she hissed. "If you go through with this, the lawsuits, the inheritance, you'll destroy us. Everything our family built will be gone." I laughed bitterly. "Your family built? You mean the family that kidnapped me? The family that made me their servant while you lived like royalty? Forgive me if I don't shed a tear." She leaned closer, her voice sharp as glass. "Don't play the victim. You were fed. You had a roof over your head. You could have had worse." The words hit me like a slap. That was always their excuse, that I should have been grateful for scraps. I stood, my voice cold. "I was never your brother. I was your prisoner, and soon the whole world will know it." She grabbed my arm. "We can make a deal, Ethan. Walk away from the money. Leave the Bennetts. Stay quiet and we'll give you millions. Enough to live comfortably. Just don't ruin us." For a split second, the offer tempted me. Millions of dollars, no media circus, no endless court battles. Freedom. But then I remembered Sarah's tears when she hugged me. David's trembling hands when he called me son. 30 years of prayers. 30 years of love. I pulled my arm free. "You already ruined me. Now it's my turn to ruin you." Her face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this, Ethan. I swear you will." The next morning, the war began. Claire and my fake brothers went to the press. They painted me as a liar, a con artist after the Bennett fortune. They claimed I had no proof of who I was, that I was manipulating two grieving old people. But Detective Harris was ready. She had DNA results, police records, witness statements. The truth was undeniable. The case went to court. For weeks, I sat in a courtroom while lawyers battled over my identity. The fake family's attorney argued that the Bennetts had mistaken me for someone else. They called me unstable, accused me of fabricating evidence. But then the DNA test was revealed. 99.9% match. The courtroom gasped. The judge banged his gavel for silence. Sarah cried openly, clutching David's hand. And for the first time, I felt the chains of my old life shatter. I was Ethan Bennett, legally, officially, irrevocably. But winning in court didn't end the nightmare. The fake family escalated. Anonymous accounts leaked private photos of me, spun stories about my past, painted me as violent and dangerous. I was followed, harassed, cornered by strangers demanding interviews. One night, someone spray-painted the Bennett gates with the words, "Thief." David wanted to hire bodyguards. Sarah begged me not to leave the house, but I couldn't hide forever. The final confrontation came when Detective Harris discovered evidence that shook even me. She arrived at the estate one evening, pale and tense. "Ethan, you need to sit down." My stomach twisted. "What is it?" She placed a folder on the table. Inside were photographs, receipts, bank transfers, proof that my fake father hadn't just kidnapped me. He'd planned it. He had worked with the babysitter, forged documents, and deliberately stolen me to raise as his own. And worse, the money that supported my fake siblings' lavish lifestyle came from Bennett accounts. Funds siphoned quietly, stolen year after year. My fake family had been living off my inheritance the whole time. I slammed the folder shut, rage boiling in my veins. They stole me. They stole my life, and they stole my future. David put a hand on my shoulder, his voice steady but cold. "Then it's time we take everything back." The next day we filed new charges. Kidnapping, fraud, embezzlement. Arrest warrants followed. My fake siblings were dragged into custody. The empire they'd built on lies collapsed overnight. The press swarmed, headlines screaming the downfall of a once-respected family. And me? I stood on the Bennett steps, my real parents on either side, cameras flashing as I spoke the words I'd waited my whole life to say. My name is Ethan Bennett. For 30 years I was stolen, lied to, and treated as less than human. But today the truth wins. And no one will ever take that from me again. The crowd erupted. Sarah squeezed my hand, David nodded proudly. And for the first time in my life I felt whole. But deep down I knew one thing. The war was over. But the scars would never fade. Because no matter how much money, justice, or family I had now, nothing could give me back the 30 years that were stolen. Still, I whispered to myself, this is just the beginning. The day the verdict came down, the world finally stopped calling me Michael. The judge's words still echoed in my mind. Ethan Bennett, rightful heir, biological son of David and Sarah Bennett. It was official. 30 years of lies dissolved with a single ruling. The courtroom erupted with flashing cameras, reporters shouting questions, microphones shoved in my face. But I didn't hear any of it. The only sound that mattered was Sarah's sob as she whispered in my ear, "Welcome home, Ethan." The reward fund was released within weeks. $95 million. I stared at the bank documents, struggling to comprehend the zeros. For most of my life, I'd been scraping by. Scrubbing floors, delivering food, counting coins to afford a bus ride. Now, overnight, I had more money than I could ever spend in 10 lifetimes. But instead of joy, I felt hollow. Money couldn't give me back the childhood I'd lost. It couldn't erase the cruel words, the slaps, the endless years of being treated as less than nothing. It couldn't replace birthdays, Christmas mornings, the sound of my real mother singing me to sleep. David noticed my silence one night as we sat in his study. "You don't look happy," he said quietly. I forced a smile. "I should be, shouldn't I? I won. I have you. I have Mom. I have everything." He studied me, his eyes heavy with wisdom. "But you also lost 30 years. Don't pretend that doesn't hurt." I looked down at my hands, trembling slightly. "They stole my life, Dad. I don't know how to just move on." David leaned forward, gripping my shoulder. "Then don't move on. Build. Start fresh. Don't waste another second of the time you've been given." The fake family was sentenced. Claire and my fake brothers received prison terms for fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction. My fake mother broke down in court, wailing for forgiveness, begging to see me one last time. For weeks, I avoided her. What words could possibly bridge the chasm she had carved into my life? But one evening, curiosity won. I visited her in prison. She looked older, thinner, broken. When she saw me, tears spilled down her face. "Michael," I cut her off. "That's not my name, not anymore." She swallowed hard. "Ethan, please. I know I don't deserve it, but I loved you in my own way. I raised you, I fed you, You treated me like a servant," I snapped. "You lied every single day. You let me believe I was unwanted. Do you know what that does to a child?" She sobbed, reaching for my hand, but the glass partition stopped her. "I was weak. I followed your father's plan. I thought I couldn't lose you too. You were my son, even if you weren't mine." For a long moment I stared at her. The part of me that had been a beaten-down boy wanted to scream, to curse her, to make her feel the same worthlessness she'd given me. But another part of me was tired. I stood, my voice calm but cold. "You were never my mother. You were my captor, and I will never forgive you." Her face crumpled as I walked away, and I felt lighter than I had in years. The Bennetts tried to give me everything: control of the family companies, the estate, the trust. But I refused. "I don't want to live under the shadow of money," I told them. "I want to build something that's mine, not stolen, not inherited, mine." So I started a foundation with part of the reward money, dedicated to finding missing children, reuniting broken families, and helping survivors of kidnapping and abuse rebuild their lives. Every time we reunited a child with their family, I felt a piece of my own shattered past heal. The press called me the heir of hope. They painted me as a hero, but I wasn't a hero. I was just a man trying to make sure no one else lived the nightmare I did. One evening, months after the chaos, I stood outside the Bennett estate, watching the sunset. Sarah came and slipped her hand into mine. "You're quiet," she said softly. "I was just thinking," I murmured. "For 30 years, I thought I was unwanted. And now, I have everything. But I still feel like that little boy sometimes. Alone. Afraid." Sarah's grip tightened. "You'll never be alone again, Ethan. We lost 30 years, but we have the rest of our lives now. That's all that matters." I looked at her, my chest aching with gratitude. "You never gave up on me." Her eyes glistened. "And I never will." That night, I wrote in my journal, something I hadn't done since childhood. For 30 years I lived a lie. I thought I was adopted, unwanted, forgotten. But the truth was worse. I was kidnapped, stolen, broken. Yet out of that pain, I found something stronger. I found the parents who never stopped searching. I found my real name, my real self, Ethan Bennett. And though nothing can give me back the years that were stolen, I now have something worth far more than money. I have a family, I have a future, and for the first time in my life, I have hope. And as I closed the journal, I realized something. The boy they tried to erase was gone. The man who replaced him was unbreakable. And this was only the beginning, only the